I am fascinated by this, and it's an honour to have this man in the studio. We've been talking about our same-sex marriage. Now, we wanted to obviously do it in Australia. The Commonwealth doesn't recognise it. We needed to find a bit of a technicality, a loophole of how we could create this, Fitzy, and then we discovered a micronation. We're going to find out more what a micronation is because we have George, the Emperor of Atlantium, here in the studio. Welcome, mate.
G'day, Wippa. Pleasure to be here.
George, can you explain to us, just briefly, what is a micronation?
Well, a micronation is when some crazy kid at the age of 15 gets told by his parents that you're too politically active, go out and do something about the world, and that kid goes out and sets up their own country, and that kid in this case was me. 31 years later, we've got a country that's about half the size of Monaco, located about 300 k's from Sydney, with about 2,000 citizens scattered around the world in 100 countries.
Wow. So you're an independent nation?
Yep, absolutely. For all intents and purposes, we have a near neighbour, Australia, which where I was born, and which I have a great deal of respect for. But Atlantium, we like to think, is a little bit more advanced than Australia because all of our citizens, unlike the citizens of Australia, are actually equal before the law in all respects.
So what do you use? What do you buy food with? What do you supply yourself with to live in this micronation?
Well, unfortunately, we do actually rely for food on our near neighbour Australia. But apart from that, we're actually completely off grid. We generate our own electricity locally. We collect water from the sky and keep it in tanks. And we're about to set up a wind turbine for additional electric power down there, so we're completely independent.
So George, how many citizens in your country?
Well, we've got 2,000 citizens, and they live all around the world. They're scattered in about 100 countries around the world.
Okay.
Do you pay land taxes?
I'd rather not answer that question.
And at the same time, George, I mean, what do you have that you've created? I mean, on the website there's money, there's stamps, there are ministers?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, Atlantium is just like any other country in the world, except slightly smaller. In fact, a great deal smaller in many regards. We've got ministers. Our ministers and our representatives in places like India and Brazil have had great success in actually engaging and meeting directly with the heads of state of those countries. So we've met the Prime Minister of India, we've met the President of Brazil, the Vice President of Iran, the Nepali Foreign Minister. So our people have actually engaged seriously country to country with those people.
George, what are some of the positions that are under you as Emperor?
Well, there are ministerial positions, there are directors who look after particular responsibilities. So we've got a Minister of State, for example, who is actually the former second in charge of the Hong Kong Health Service. He's a very, very senior Hong Kong bureaucrat for 30 years, retired, lives half his life in Australia and half his life in Hong Kong, and when he's here, he is the Minister of State for Atlantium.
This is fascinating. So, George, I mean, when you started it out, I mean, it's great being able to go, well, I'll be the Emperor. I could also be Minister for Defence if I wanted, which means locking my front door at night.
Yeah, exactly. You can do nothing to stop you from going out and doing that, apart from the fact that it costs a vast amount of money to actually set up a country and run it, and a vast amount of time and energy.
Tell us about your own money.
Well, the unit of currency is the imperial solidus, which is something we've stolen from the ancient Romans, and we issue coins and banknotes, and we sell those, and we sell them at face value. So the solidus is at parity with the US dollar.
Wow! So
when we sell a 100 solidus banknote, we sell it for $100.
Do you have your own laws?
Yes, we do.
Yes.
We rely on Australian law where we don't have our own laws, but we certainly do have laws that differ from Australia.
So, George, just back to your currency. If I had $100 and I wanted to buy 100 of your dollars, it'd cost me $100.
That's correct. It's a license to print money.
Wow. Well done. Well, so George, we obviously want a technicality. We want someone that has a micronation on board for our same-sex marriage. We would love you to come on board as the host nation.
Well, you're very lucky in that regard because marriage equality is one thing that Atlantium has been very, very strong on for many, many years. We don't discriminate against our citizens based on race, on culture, on religion, on sex or on sexuality, and so marriage equality is part of the deal.
Just quickly, because you're quite a bit out of Sydney, aren't you?
We're about 300 k's southwest of Sydney.
Okay. Is there any way that we could have a same-sex marriage in Sydney somewhere? Can you do anything with that?
Well, Atlantium has been thinking for some time that we do actually need to set up a Sydney embassy, and I'm sort of looking out the studio window there across at Glebe, and there's some lovely parkland over there, which I think probably could do with some velvet ropes around it and a temporary secession. So
Like a temporary embassy.
absolutely.
Okay.
Oh, that is sensational,
Emperor George on board.
Fascinating.
For any same-sex couples out there that would like to get married, we're going to go ahead with this. Go to our website, novafm.com.au, register your details there. Emperor George, thank you very much for coming in.
Thanks, guys, for having me.
Thank you, Emperor.